Welcome back to the Gains for Girls podcast. We are so glad that you are tuning in. Make sure you like and subscribe anywhere where you get your podcast. Be sure to check us out at OutKick.com. But in the meantime, we hope you enjoyed today's interview with Congresswoman Mary Miller. She's, of course, a Republican. She's from the state of Illinois. She has been a fearless defender for women's sports, for women's rights to privacy and safety and equal opportunity, along with several other issues. But her and I, we've had the opportunity and the pleasure to get to know each other over these past 2 years or so. And she's just as wonderful in real life as you will see she is on this interview. But recently, we've heard about Joe Biden's, the Department of Education's illegal administrative rewrite of Title IX. But Congresswoman Mary Miller and 67 other House Republicans, now I believe it's 70, but originally 67 other House Republicans have said, no, this is what you've done here is not ethical. It's not right. This did not pass through Congress. And so Congresswoman Mary Miller has introduced a Congressional Review Act to ultimately overturn Joe Biden's rewrite of Title IX. This will be huge. It gives everyone, both Republicans and Democrats, the opportunity to stand with women. They will be on record. They all already have been. Originally, 219 Republicans voted in favor of protecting women and girls in sports, and all 203, every single last one of them, mothers and fathers of their own young daughters, all 203 Democrats voted in opposition of protecting women and girls in sports. And so I wanted to read very briefly this statement from Representative Miller following her announcement of her Congressional Review Act. And she says, Joe Biden is undermining years of progress women have made in securing their rights under Title IX. For more than half a century, Title IX has protected women and girls, ensuring they have equal opportunities in education. However, the Biden administration is putting our girls at risk by allowing men to access women and girls' bathrooms and locker rooms. This divergence is a blatant violation of the protections Title IX was meant to guarantee, and it undermines the very foundation of women's rights and security in their private spaces. That sums it up. But nonetheless, be sure to check out the interview here with Congresswoman Mary Miller. Well, Congresswoman Miller, thank you so much for joining the Gains for Girls podcast. You and I have had the pleasure of being able to spend some time together over these past 2 or so years, fighting the fight. The fight I am referring to is the fight to maintain and preserve women's sports. And so I just wanted to thank you first and foremost. And I wanted to give you the opportunity to explain what's going on, what the Biden administration has done here, and really why Title IX is important.
Right. Well, first of all, I'd like to say that I'm the mom of 5 daughters and 10 granddaughters. And this is just, it's ridiculous what's happening. On his first day in office, Joe Biden signed executive orders to start pushing this transgender agenda on our society through Title IX. And Title IX in 1972 was implemented to ensure equal opportunities in education for girls and women. And that would mean, scholarship opportunities and opportunities in athletics, as well as all, educational opportunities. So, here we are humming along fine until Joe Biden decides to be a champion, not for girls and women, but for pretenders, men that want to pretend and declare that they're women. And now they're going to take away the opportunities that were intended for the women. And number one, it's taking away safety for girls and women. You know what it's like to have them invading the locker rooms and the showers of our girls and women, and then taking participating in the athletics. Are going to just completely ruin girls' athletic opportunities and making a dangerous situation, even in athletics, depending on the sport that they've decided to participate in. So I have a bill, a congressional bill to reverse his Title IX rule. And we've got 70 co-sponsors already. And I look for it to pass because this is common sense, and that this is on the side of the American people. American people think the transgender movement is outrageous. And, they see that the damage this is going to do to our girls and women, reversing the big wins we've had. I want to say, where are the feminists?
I know. That seems to be as if it's you and I nowadays. We
Yes.
are the ones who are fighting for the rights and the sex-based protections of women. Never
Yes.
once have I considered myself a feminist. Definitely not prior to this fight that we are in now. But now I have to kind of reevaluate. Am I a feminist? I mean, I certainly believe that women were created equal, men and women, but that's, I think, where I'm struggling is I thought feminists believed that, yes, we're created equal, but we're the same. And I certainly don't believe we're the same, which is, why we're fighting what we're fighting. But you mentioned...
Well, we're created equal, but we're different.
Exactly.
And, we're different physically. And that's why this is so absurd. I mean, men's bodies have more bone mass, more muscle, more lung capacity. So in every way, at least in athletics, this is, it's unfair. Have you heard of any transgender women want to participate in men's athletics? If there are, I haven't heard about it.
No.
But it's all the other way around. They're basically loser athletes that, want to go into this. I just want to thank you for your courage. And you had plans to go to dentistry school, right?
I did.
And you put those on hold because this is, you're fighting for basically the future of our country. This is an attack on the family too. I mean, the whole transgender movement, they're sterilizing young women. They're either going to have diminished opportunity to have children after they take all these hormones and have surgeries, or, they won't be able to have them at all.
No, you're right. It harms children. It harms women's rights, and it harms and takes away parental rights. This movement that's built on deceit and lies.
Right.
But you mentioned President Biden, and you also mentioned how the American people, your common sense, everyday Americans,
right,
they're not in support of this, which it leaves me perplexed. Why is this something that he would pursue? And so something I found interesting was that this didn't pass through Congress, what he did.
Right.
He signed this with the stroke of a pen and what I would refer to as an illegal administrative rewrite. And so you've mentioned you've introduced this Congressional Review Act, which is important. You also said there's 70 members of Congress who are supporting this. I'll ask you point blank, are any of those 70 members Democrats?
No. And I think there may be a few that would want to sign on, but they're like communists over there. They march in lockstep. They can't think for themselves, and they're told what to do and how to vote. There's no way that they'll sign on. So,
do you think they really believe that men can become women? Because I hold this hope in my heart that they don't actually think that. Same thing with the NCAA. Same thing with ESPN, who was propping Leah Thomas up during Women's History Month. I don't believe that they actually think that Leah Thomas is a woman, or any male who identifies as a woman. They don't actually believe that's a woman. I mean, do you kind of have the same sentiment? Have you had any conversations behind closed doors with people in Congress or even in the Senate who have said, hey, I can see where you're coming from, or even outright saying they agree with you?
Any conversations I've had, they get extremely frustrated and they start like falsely accusing, calling names, and trying to get off topic because they can't defend their position. But I think where we are as a culture is we are reality denying. And when I have pondered how we ended up here, so the left and the godless have been taking pot shots at our foundation. You can't build anything without a good foundation, and they are damaging the foundation that our country and our culture was founded on, which are Judeo-Christian values. And, we took God out of school and we started telling kids it came from nowhere. And it has been a downward slide ever since then. But this whole transgender issue goes back to Genesis, when God created man and woman, a man and woman different, and has, all through the scripture, all through millennia, up until recent times, science has been completely supportive that men and women are different.
Yeah. And that's something that I really admire about you, Congresswoman Miller, is your stand in your faith. You are someone who proclaims your faith, which is a rarity, honestly. But it's so refreshing to see someone with your power, your influence, your platform, be able to so boldly and so unapologetically do just that. And so, I mean, you kind of touched on it. And as a Christian myself, I entirely see the battles that we face, not just the gender ideology movement, but a lot of the cultural and societal shifts, movements, changes that we've seen. I would describe that as spiritual warfare. And so I wanted to get kind of your sentiment on that.
Absolutely. I like to quote my friend, Erwin Lutzer, pastor of Moody Church. He said, evil never retreats on its own, only when it's confronted by a more powerful force. And I think Christians have been wimpy over the last decades and not wanting to speak up and call things good and evil like they are. I'm very encouraged with Tucker Carlson because he's saying this is a battle between good and evil. You're speaking up and saying that. And there truly is good and there's evil, and it's defined in the scriptures. And our country was founded on the Judeo-Christian values. And I just, like, you've been out in front, and your courage is inspiring others. And so I want to proclaim that our country was founded on Judeo-Christian values. There is a God. We sing, God bless America. We sing, He shed His grace on thee. And so we have acknowledged it. You come out here and you look at what's etched in stone and monuments and, even in the Capitol. And we start Congress every day, open it with a prayer. And we have been acknowledging it, but now we have someone in the executive office, President Biden, who wants to redefine everything that God said was good and everything that he said was evil. And we just need to stand up and fight back against it. I'm not afraid of them. I'm not ashamed. People should, the left is so bold to lie, and we need to be bold to tell the truth. We need to quit scurrying to the corner and acting fearful. And I've had people say, oh, but if I do that, I'll lose this or that. I don't know, social collateral, possibly even their job. But I said, you know what? If we don't fight back, we are going to lose everything. And just like what our girls are going to lose if we don't fight back against this ridiculous Title IX rule Joe Biden is defining what a woman is. Sex in Title IX was biological. And now he's trying to say it's some kind of spectrum of identity based on emotion. And I looked up on the internet how many genders there are. So this affects our girls and women's private spaces, scholarships, and athletics. But it goes much farther than that. It's actually going to coerce speech in the schools. And we know that, all over the country, teachers and students are either being fired or they're being suspended for misgendering someone. And I looked up on the internet and there were several things like 72 genders, 20 genders, 11 genders. And I was reading them to my husband. I couldn't even pronounce the genders. It's ridiculous. It's absurd. It's like mentally ill where we are entering into. And I just want to tell everybody, have courage. Here you are, a young woman putting your whole life on hold to fight back against this evil. I appreciate it so much, and it should inspire other people, teachers and students and moms and dads. Dads, you should be fighting for your daughters and going out there and saying, my daughter's not participating, or we're pulling her out of school, or whatever. Show up at the YMCA when they have some 50-year-old trans man showing up to watch the girls undress. Fight back.
100%. Yeah, I think we've seen a failure on behalf of parents. And to your point, if this isn't a hill you're willing to die on, because of fear, because you're scared you'll lose your job or any other factor, then what in the world is the hill that you're willing to die on? This should be, really without question, something that we're willing to stand up against. And so I just wanted to ask you, do you think this is going to be a issue that has attention drawn to it during the presidential election?
I think we should draw attention to it.
Totally.
Absolutely, because we represent the majority of Americans. The majority of Americans are dwelling in reality, and they refuse to, the left is trying to get us to deny reality. Look at them. They'll say, Joe Biden's saying, oh, the border is secure. That's what he's been saying for the last 3 years. Inflation is under control. Americans know better, and we know better on this transgender issue also. So I think that it should be the border, inflation, and family values, parental rights, and this trans issue are big issues that we should be talking about. They're winners with the American people.
Well, I totally agree with you. I know you have a busy day fighting for people like me, fighting for people in your home state of Illinois. But we're so grateful for you. As you said, you have 5 daughters, 10 granddaughters. Gosh, you are majorly outnumbered. But that's what it's about. We are fighting for the next generation so they can have the same opportunities to compete that I had, that you had.
Absolutely.
People in your generation fought for that are now being eroded at the hands of the administration in the White House right now. But it's people like you that give me hope. 20 states are now suing the Biden administration. Lots of pushback, which is long overdue, but certainly necessary. And so you, again, are at the forefront of that, and we could not be more grateful for you, Congresswoman Miller. So thank you.
Oh, well, it's mutual. Thank you so much. You're doing a great job. I appreciate how you're going into all those hard spaces like at universities, and you're just cheerfully, joyfully, boldly proclaiming the truth and pushing back against this agenda.
As I said in the intro, she is someone who is just as down to earth and amazing in real life as she is, and as you saw on this interview. And so we appreciate her and her fight. As she said, be bold, be courageous, be strong, and be unapologetic in stating the truth, biological reality. Thanks for checking us out. Again, make sure you check us out at OutKick.com, but we will see you again next week. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching. The fight to save women's sports and restore common sense is far from over, and I continue the conversation every week. So make sure to catch more content over here and subscribe to OutKick so you don't miss a thing.